Hi, I'm Angela Jeffries, and I'm one of the conference coordinators for the AMSA ARC UCD Pre-Med Conference, our 10th annual. Welcome back to the Pavilion stream. We'll be having two med student panels coming up. The first will be traditional students, and the second will be non-traditional students. Now, I'd like to give a very, very warm welcome to our traditional med students. If we can just go down the line and say your name and which med school you attend right now.
All right, so my name is Randall Rueda. I am a second-year medical student at the University of California, Davis School of Medicine. I'm part of the San Joaquin Valley Prime program, and yeah, good to see you all.
My name is Amanda Mooneyham. I am a fourth-year medical student at UC Davis, and I'm also part of the Rural Prime program.
My name is Doris Chen. I'm at the University of Nevada School of Medicine, second year.
My name is Marvin Gong. I go to Toronto University, College of Osteopathic Medicine, located in Mare Island, which is right next to Vallejo. And yeah, I'm a second-year student.
Our first question is, why did you choose medicine?
Guess we'll just go down the
Yeah,
line.
just go down the line.
So my choice of medicine stems from personal experience. So being able to see my family and all of the medical things that we had to go through, I guess inspired me to really pick up on my love of people and to continue that further in order to be able to help people for the rest of my life. So it's really why I wanted to be part of medicine.
My interest in medicine stems from my work at a coroner's office. I was very moved, I don't want to say moved or touched, but very disappointed, I guess, in the outcomes in the community. There was a lot of suicides and drug overdose, and I was very frustrated with that. So I decided I wanted to make a difference. So that's what really motivated me to go to medical school.
My decision to go to medicine is personal as well. My grandmother had Parkinson's disease, and since I was little, I've watched her disease develop. And as I went through school, her disease continued to progress, and so I made the decision to go into medicine.
Well, my decision to go into medicine it stemmed from when I was really young, when I was around 9 years old. My father had nasopharyngeal cancer, which affects many Chinese males. And when I was younger, I saw that the empathy and compassion that my family physician gave to my dad was truly remarkable, and that really inspired me to become a physician. And also many experiences that I had in college accumulated into me wanting to become a doctor as well.
All right. Another question we have is, and again, we can just go down the line. What was your undergrad experience like? Where did you attend? Was it was apparently pretty traditional, but when did you find out in your undergrad career that you were really going to apply to medicine? You were going to continue on that path?
All right, so I went to the University of California, Merced. So I'm part of the newest UC. And I graduated in 2011, so I jumped straight in from undergrad into medical school. About halfway through undergrad, I started doing research in immunology, and I really started taking the upper division classes that really wanted me to go towards infectious disease as my topic of choice in medicine. And I think the courses that I was able to take at UC Merced helped me solidify that desire to be able to go into infectious disease for medicine. Other than that, really, I knew sort of from the start of undergrad that medicine was definitely an option for me. And I took that by the reins and kept going through undergrad to be sure that I got a chance to experience what I wanted to experience to solidify that desire.
I went to the University of Nevada, Reno for undergrad. I was a biology major and graduated in 2009. Undergrad was a lot about trying different things for me. I did ballroom dance. I joined the Civil Engineering Concrete Canoe Club. I was a ski racer. And I just tried to get involved in as many things as I could, be socially connected. I also did research in a biochemistry lab. So really, I just wanted to diversify myself, and so that I think really made medicine kind of more interesting for me. So, yeah.
I attended the UC Berkeley for my undergrad. I was a cognitive neuroscience major. I've always wanted to go into medicine, so I took pre-med classes once I started at Berkeley and did research at the Children's Hospital of Oakland. That's about it.
I graduated from here, UC Davis, in 2010. I was involved in quite a number of labs. I was involved in ophthalmology research, stroke research, and basic science lab research based on telomeres. And I was part of the tennis team here. I played for a year or so, and also I was involved in a few clubs. I was the president of a few clubs, and we did vision screenings and promoted eye health. The clubs I was involved in were Unite for Sight and the Foresight Club here at UC Davis.
Cool. Next, could you describe your path through the whole application process? The application, how that was like, how secondaries were like, how the interview was, the whole shebang.
Okay, so again, going down the line. So I applied during my junior year of undergrad in order to be able to jump straight into medical school after I graduated. So the primary application I took care of that summer, and it really started to progress as far as the application process through secondaries and interviews into my senior year. And as far as senior year was concerned, it was difficult because I was taking classes and having to leave classes because I was needing to go to take my interviews. And it sort of took a toll on my classes, especially the heavy hitters like anatomy and physiology that I ended up taking. And moving forward with those, I did have to take a dip into those course grades to be able to move forward in my applications, but it was definitely well worth it.
Between my sophomore and junior years is when I worked at the coroner's office and decided that I wanted to go to medical school. And then after that, the next summer between the junior and senior year is when I took 2 months to study for the MCATs. I used exam crackers, and that worked for me. And then I also took gross anatomy during the summer as well. And so I took MCATs in August and applied in July. So the schools hadn't received my MCAT scores yet. So that's a little bit challenging. I recommend taking MCATs before you apply. And then the secondaries rolled in almost right away in September, and then first interviews in December. And then I was accepted finally at UC Davis in approximately February or March.
I actually took 2 years off after undergrad to shadow and work full-time before I applied for medical school. I basically only applied to 2 or 3 schools because as a Nevada resident, I wanted to go to Nevada. Our application process was very straightforward. I interviewed in October, found out next year, and started school the following year.
So I took a year off. When I graduated around 2010, I took a year off just to apply. I turned in my primary application around June 9th. I can't remember the exact day, but around that time. So I got in pretty early, and it got verified just as quickly. And secondaries started coming in around July, and I completed most of them, and all the ones that I really wanted to go, all the ones that I really wanted to complete. I applied to both MD and DO schools, but deep down inside, I really wanted to get into a DO school. So the 2 schools that I really wanted to get into were Touro, California, because that's pretty close by, and Western University, which is in SoCal. And I received my interview invite in September, and then I interviewed in October, and I found out within a week that I got in, and I was just really happy, and for the rest of the year, I worked at Macy's. Yeah, so that's my process.
Shadowing was mentioned, and we were having a couple questions from the Twitter feed about how you found out about shadowing experiences, how you went about shadowing a physician, how you went about getting those experiences as a pre-med.
So as far as shadowing opportunities, personally, it was more so a issue of networking. It's really important to know people, and the people you know will more often than not give you the opportunities straight to your door, and they'll know what you want, and they'll be able to help you get what you want. So I knew a lot of upperclassmen when I was a sophomore that helped me really get networked with a lot of I guess you can call them heavy hitters as far as clinical experience in the Merced area while I was doing undergrad there. And I was able to shadow and be a volunteer in the ED, in the emergency department at the Mercy facility there. I was able to do that for 2 years, and that experience really solidified what I wanted to do as far as how I wanted to practice medicine in the future. And again, it's really dependent on who you know, because the people you know will get you where you want to go.
Just to comment on the shadowing as well, is exactly what Randall said. Just start with people you know. I mean, they'll probably be more than willing to let you follow them around for the day. That's what I did. I started with a family friend, and you network from there, and pretty soon you're seeing many different specialties.
Yeah, the same experience. One of our upperclassmen was shadowing at our trauma center in Las Vegas, and he introduced me to the doctor. She also took me on, and I did research with her as well as shadowing. So.
My dad's an optometrist, so he knows many ophthalmologists, and I shadowed many ophthalmologists throughout college. And those ophthalmologists knew a lot of other specialists, so that was another way for me to shadow other doctors as well. And throughout my life, I've seen the pediatricians and family physicians, so I have a good grasp on what primary care is all about, but it was nice to see other specialists in action at the hospitals or clinics as well.
Okay, so going down the line again, what do you guys feel was the strongest aspect of your application to med school?
So the strongest aspect of my application to med school, I would say, was my personal statement. I took a non-conventional approach to telling a story through my my personal statement. I definitely took some artistic license in what I wrote, but I want to say that artistic license helped me to showcase who I really was to the people that were reading my application. And it's often seen within applications by admissions staff that they look for who you are as a person through the words that you say in your statement. So if you can take the time to well develop your statement, then you'll be good to go.
Obviously, everybody needs to have some level of strength in their GPA and MCAT scores. But I would agree with Randall that personal statement really showcases who you are. And for me, I try to use a lot of visual language that makes it a little bit more attractive writing. You don't want to say things like, I wanted to become a doctor because, or this is the day I wanted to become a doctor. Like, you really want to give the reader the experience of when you made that decision. Like paint the picture of when you were in the ICU, paint the picture of when you worked in rehab, or something that really gives a good visualization of your experience.
I think for my application, aside from personal statement, was a lot of extracurriculars that were not necessarily related to medicine. Played taiko, co-directed at Berkeley, did a lot of things outside of the classroom, not necessarily with AMSA or, in addition to those clubs and things like that, I think will help your application stand out.
Well, for my application, number-wise, I was fine. I had a pretty high GPA and pretty balanced MCAT score, and so that was not a weakness. Some of the strengths in my application were probably all experiences that I had throughout college. the leadership positions that I held allowed me to see how I can integrate teamwork into all the events that we held, and there's just a lot of experiences that I went through college. Also, playing tennis was a pretty unique experience as well.
If you guys feel comfortable sharing how many schools you applied to, that I think would be interesting, as well as what were you looking for in the schools that you applied to? Like, was there a location? Was it a specific program? And, you know, what really attracted you to the med school?
So for me, I only applied to the med schools in California because I could only see myself living in California. And I took it pretty seriously as far as knowing that there were only a limited amount of schools. All of the schools in California are quite competitive. And I just moved from there knowing that I really wanted what I wanted, and that was to practice in California. The process in itself, applying to the California schools, can be a little nerve-wracking because it's very competitive, like I said. But it's doable. I mean, a lot of us are here because we got through that process.
Okay, I applied for California schools as well, and I added on Nevada, Washington, and Oregon schools as well. And I mostly wanted to stay on the West Coast, so that's all.
I only applied to about 3 schools, Nevada being my first choice since I'm from there.
I applied to 15 ND schools and 15 DO schools. I was given a fee assistance. Yeah, I was given some fee assistance, so I was allowed to get my secondaries waived as well as my primary application waived. All those fees waived. And I chose Touro University because it's osteopathic school, and it really aligned with my philosophies, osteopathic medicine that is. And also I got to treat patients from the very first day with all the treatments that they taught us at school.
And that brings up a very good point. What, for the first 3, what about, was it UC Davis and so on, that, why'd you choose that school over any other school?
So one of the defining factors, really, that played into why I wanted to go to UC Davis for med school was the San Joaquin Valley Prime program. I moved to Fresno in 2001 and went to undergrad at UC Merced. And it's definitely one of my goals to practice medicine in the Valley. And the San Joaquin Valley Prime program really plays into bringing physicians back to the Valley to help with the health disparities that we have there. And I totally foresee myself in the future, once I'm done with all my training, practicing in Merced back home. So that's definitely one of the things that played into my decision to go to Davis.
On my interview day at UC Davis, I felt at home. Like, I felt like I belonged in a family. It was the right fit for me. There was another school that I felt very comfortable with, but I was interested in practicing rural medicine, and Davis had that kind of program available. So between feeling like I was at home and having the rural program is what made me decide to choose Davis.
I really like Nevada because our class size is really small. We only have 60 students in our class, so we all know each other really well. In addition, we get clinical experience early on, and also because we're considered in-state, the tuition was good for me.
I had a chance to see what Touro is all about when I visited their campus right before I interviewed there, and I met a lot of faculty there, and also the physician I shadowed at the time knew all the faculty there, and he introduced me to them, and I thought they were really nice, and they answered all my questions. And when I went to school last year there, and I'm still in school right now, and they still answer my questions, and I can come in any time into their office and ask them questions if I have any questions on the lectures or whatnot. And the physician staff there, it's primary care based, which is really awesome because I get to really hone down my primary care skills before I head into rotations and all that.
How do you guys feel that med school has lived up to your expectations?
So one of the, I guess, things that they tell us at the beginning is that med school is like drinking from a a fire hose by the sheer amount of material that you have to go through. And that's definitely lived up to my expectations. I mean, it's definitely a lot of hard work going through medical school. But one of the things that really shined above that was the opportunity to meet individuals that are really focused in what I want to do as well. And in my class, we have about 96 people, about just shy of 100. And we get to really know each other well, and we get a chance to work with each other, because the people that you work with in your med school class will be the colleagues you'll turn to in the future. I can easily say that I can have a list of about 8 to 10 of my classmates that I know are thinking about going into surgery, and if they end up going into surgery, they're the 10 colleagues that I'll turn to in the future to refer my patients to if need be. And I think that's the part that shined above the sheer fact that there's a ton of stuff to do.
I would say that everything in med school is kind of unexpected until you go through it. Yeah, definitely the course load was, I think the course load was the only thing that I knew was going to be challenging, but there's nothing like, doing your first anatomy lab. There's nothing like learning how to do more sensitive parts of the physical exam, such as breast or pelvic exams. I think those are the most important parts that really bind your classmates, like the cohesive group. And actually, I was very surprised at how well I got along with my classmates. Everybody has been so friendly, and how supportive the staff has been. I think those are the least expected parts of med school for me.
I feel as though you can't really prepare for the experience of medical school. You just have to experience it, and you have to go along for the ride. That's it, yeah.
I knew what I was getting into. The coursework is it's absolutely crazy. Sorry. And I just knew that I'd have to be focused throughout the week. Maybe spend one day of the week just going out and having fun. But most of the days of the week I spent studying, and I knew that ahead of time. So it wasn't really that surprising to me that I had to study that much every day.
As a follow-up question, what do you guys do when you're not studying in med school?
So when I'm not studying in med school, it's definitely nice to hang out with friends within the class, because we keep each other sane. I mean, sanity is hard to come by when you're studying so much. And just being able to just hang out at someone's house, not even doing anything, and just being able to see people without their books, it's definitely refreshing. So whenever I get a chance, on top of sleeping, I mean, sleeping's nice sometimes, but just being able to hang out with my classmates and knowing that we're still people, even though we're going through this chaos of med school, that's the best part.
People say that I'm an anomaly in med school, but I really don't think it's true, because everybody does crazy things on the weekends. But I started competing in ballroom dance during my first year of med school. I did my first triathlon. I've gone skydiving. I got scuba certified. I've climbed Mount Shasta. Like, I don't know if it's maybe my personality, but I love to be competitive outside of school as well. So I do fun things.
I spent a lot of time with friends, and also catching up with friends from high school and college, also calling my parents and telling them that I'm still alive. Other than that, go out hiking, just hang out, watch movies, eat lots of food, get some sleep once in a while.
I try to visit surrounding cities around my area, around the Vallejo area, such as San Francisco, Berkeley, and anywhere else around the area. I try to visit old friends. I try not to hang around my classmates all too much on Fridays. So that's the day when I hang out and spend some time with my other family and friends. I see my classmates all the time, so I just say that I'm just thinking to myself, like, maybe it's good to spend some time with my family and friends from back at home as well.
Do you guys have any general advice for pre-meds? Just anything that strikes you as being really significant?
General advice for all the pre-meds out there, don't get too caught up in the pre-med mentality. When you're a pre-med, you're a pre-med, that's for sure. And you go into almost everything with the pre-med mentality. that you have to do well, you have to showcase who you are, and you have to get something out of it. And you often lose the present when you do that. It's been mentioned many times before that as far as your experiences in undergrad, they should be of quality rather than quantity. And having the pre-med mentality 24/7 can often cast a shadow on that, because you don't get a chance to really understand how you're affected by the experiences that you take on, and you don't really get to absorb all the things that are really going on around you when you're doing the things you do. So I would say just take it easy here and there, and just really absorb what's going on rather than moving forward as quickly as possible.
I would say work hard, but also enjoy life. I really think that diversifying yourself is really important, and also showing that you're committed at the same time. Having real work experience in medicine is always a plus, but also kind of enjoying the finer things like, dancing and whatnot. So
I would say enjoy as much of your undergrad education as you can. Don't just be focused on taking science classes, pre-med classes, more science classes. Whatever you want to take now, you should do it, because in the future you may not have the opportunity. And also to just get out and do what you like to do.
I would say having a good support team while you're in college as well as medical school is really important. They're there to back you up, to help you whenever you need help, and it's really nice to have a great support team if you don't have one right now.
Let's see. If you hadn't have been accepted to med school, where do you think you guys, where your career path would have gone? If you decided against medicine?
So I guess it's the plan B question?
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as my plan B, if I didn't get into medical school, I didn't really think too far ahead as far as that, but I knew that I would want to stay working with students. So that would be either moving forward in my research career, though it was short, but moving forward with that to become a professor of a subject. More than likely it would have been immunology. Or becoming a school teacher. That was definitely something I wanted to do as a kid because I loved working with people. And other than that, just staying connected to the health field, probably getting certified in a certification program of some kind and working towards that, and just in case I ended up applying again.
my plan B was to stay in medicine, but maybe consider nursing or PA school. I knew I wanted to be involved in medicine, and I felt like those were completely acceptable alternatives for me.
I didn't really think about a plan B, but I would have continued with cognitive neuroscience and probably gone to graduate school.
Maybe becoming the next Steve Jobs and starting a company like Apple. No, I'm just kidding. I was thinking about going into optometry for a while because I thought that was a really cool field. My dad's an optometrist, and he saw a lot of patients that he helped out tremendously by restoring their eyesight, and yeah, I thought that was a really cool field to go into as well.
We have another online question about study techniques. What have you found has worked the best, especially considering the massive amount of information you need to memorize? Has there been anything that's really, a technique that's really worked for you?
So as far as study techniques, there's two that really pop out at the top of my list, and those are repetition and accountability. So through repetition, for me, just taking notes and then taking notes about my notes and then taking notes about those notes, though it's a really tedious amount of work, just the repetition itself helps you to solidify the information that you're studying. And for accountability, it's nice to study with your classmates and hold each other accountable. So one of the things I like to do is work with a partner, and I'll study for an hour about some subject that we're held responsible for. And then my classmate will study another subject, and then after that hour, we'll teach each other what we learned within the hour. And it's that accountability to keep you focused and to help you facilitate learning for the both of you.
I feel like my study strategies have evolved over the years. First and second year of med school is very different from third and fourth. First 2 years is a lot of book reading, it's a lot of memorizing facts, and you can do that with studying with other classmates, going to tutor groups, writing on all the whiteboards in all the classrooms. I've seen people do that. But for third year, you have to take what are called shelf exams after every clerkship you complete. And for those, I did a lot of practice questions. It's standardized testing, so you're going to see these questions come up again and again. It's actually like taking the MCAT all over again. And for fourth year, it's more independent reading. It's really, you want to learn what you want to learn. You don't have to take any tests. It's just independent research and learning.
I also take lots of notes, and I also re-listen to lectures. For classes like anatomy, I would draw my own pictures with like smiley faces or something to make me remember what goes where. And also, I do review before exams, like on a Sunday, all afternoon with 4 other students, and we'll just go through everything all at once.
One thing I do is preview the lectures. My professors put up their lectures the night before, and I preview those lectures, and then I go to lecture. And then after class, when they have taught the lecture, I review those lectures. So that's 3 passes right there. And I found that to be working really well for me. It really integrates all the information, all within the same day. It really hammers it down.
Who did you guys get your letters of recommendation from, and how did you form those relationships?
So my letter packet, as far as letters of recommendation, was 5 letters. So I got one from my PI, so the primary investigator for my lab. I got one from my ED volunteer coordinator from the Mercy Hospital that I worked at. I got one from the student public health group that I worked with in peer education. And then I got one from a science faculty, and I got one from my minor faculty in anthropology. And those 5 letters were part of my packet, and definitely it takes time to build relationships when you want to ask someone to produce a letter for you. It's one thing to go and talk to a random professor that you took and say, I took your class, I got an A, can you give me a letter? It's a totally different story when you know the professor well, you've met with them before, they know you by name, they know your face, and they know who you are as a person. Because similar to the personal statement, each of your letters of recommendation serves as you, as a story. And your letter writers will be able to convey who you are and convey why they believe you're one of the top candidates for a school. So if you can build a strong relationship early and continue to maintain that relationship until you apply for medical school, I would say that's one of the best things to do.
I also asked for 5 letters of recommendation, one from somebody I shadowed with, another from the coroner's office, one from a lab that I worked in, and 2 of them were from professors from my different classes. One was humanity and the other was science. So I tried to keep it as diverse as I could. And exactly what Randall said, you need to build a relationship with the people that you want your letter from. For example, when you have an instructor, like going to their office hours, engaging in conversation with them, doing anything that would maintain a good relationship with them.
I can't remember how many letters of recommendation I was required to get. I know from the doctor I shadowed, I got one. Also from 2 professors from my undergrad classes. They were actually from the graduate student instructors because I had more interaction with them. and then also the PI for the lab that I was working in as well.
I had a total of 5 letter of recommendations, 3 from science professors, 1 from an English professor, and 1 from a physician. Let's see. The science classes were pretty big, around 300 or so here at UC Davis. So it was really tough to know them well and to develop a relationship with them. But I did go to their office hours and I talked to them. I discussed their research, and because I found some of their research pretty fascinating. So, and I started up conversations in that regard. And over time, over the quarter, I developed a pretty strong relationship with them, and they knew how much I really wanted to go into medicine, and they spoke of that in my letter. And also with my English letter, I had a pretty small class among all my classmates. We only had 30 or so students in that class, and I also developed a pretty strong relationship with that professor. And he mentioned that he included a few things in my letter of recommendations, such as saying that an essay of mine is publishable, and that I had a really good reading and writing abilities, and also I got a letter of recommendation from an osteopathic physician as well, the physician I was shadowing. So I felt that I had pretty good letters of recommendation just from developing a pretty strong relationship with each one of them.
Research has come up several times now. Can you guys describe kind of what you did in your research, whether or not you got published doing it, and how you think it played into your application?
So for me, I did research in immunology, and I specifically focused on bone cells and the bone environment as far as how immune cells function and influence other cells within the bone. And just the amount of basic immunology that I got by working in research, that amount of information really helped me steer towards immunology and micro as my major. And then it really moved me towards wanting to do infectious disease as my end-all be-all goal for medical school and my training. So definitely that experience in itself helped me focus in what I really wanted to do, and really helped me guide my choice of experiences, and moving those experiences forward for my application.
My research project was before deciding to go to medical school, and so that being said, it was not in medicine. I mainly wanted to do research to learn laboratory techniques outside of the classroom that weren't necessarily taught there. And so I did research in a biochemistry lab with pollen and its ability to grow in the desert. So we just wanted to, it was more towards agriculture than medicine.
I started out doing research at the Children's Hospital of Oakland. We were comparing primate versus non-primate genetics, DNA, methylation, things like that. And then I moved on, did some research in public health, stem cell research, and also in neuroscience was the last lab I was in, comparing pathways for Alzheimer's disease.
Let's see. In my junior year, I worked for a vision science lab. I performed, let's see, what is it called? I put images together of the retina and also videos of it as well. Therefore, I can see pathological retinas when you scan across the retina. And therefore, they can research on how these diseases of the retina start to form and how they progress. But unfortunately, my PI moved over to Boston, and I had to stop research then and there in my senior year. Also, in my senior year, I took up some lab bench research, studying telomeres, but I didn't do that for too long because I did not enjoy that sort of research. And then I started up clinical research at the UC Davis Mind Institute on stroke research for a little bit. And in the future, I plan to do a little bit of clinical research.
For our final question, do you feel that most of your classmates at your med school had a similar path to you guys as far as, getting to med school? Are they mostly traditional students? Are they non-traditional? How is the mix of your guys' class?
So as far as my class is concerned at UC Davis, I believe our youngest is 21, and then our oldest is 39 or 40. So the average really comes around 26 or 27. So being a traditional student that definition has evolved a lot. And those of us that jump straight into medical school come out to about 15% of my class, because everyone takes a different approach to being a med student, or becoming a med student for that matter. So as far as my class is concerned, a lot of us can classify ourselves as traditional, but there are definitely students that went out of their way to get more experiences, even outside of health, before applying to med school.
I also go to UC Davis, so I can't say much has changed since he's applied. But yeah, we do have a very diverse group. I would say the majority of people have taken like 1 to 2 years off. I would say the majority of people have done something abroad. And we do have a lot of students that are not science majors, like they're economics, history, teaching. We have one girl who's civil engineering, and we also had people who had other careers before going into medicine. One person was a licensed professional civil engineer for several years and decided to go to medicine to become a pediatrician. So there's a lot of examples like that at Davis. So I would say the majority of people take 1 to 2 years off.
We have a very diverse class. A lot of the people in our class already have families and had families before coming to medical school. A lot of them had previous careers. We have a pilot, professional skydiver, people who were in the Navy and the Marines, things like that. It's very diverse.
Yeah, just like what they said, I have a pretty diverse class as well. The average age is around 26, 27, and we have students as young as 21 years old up to 41 years old, and it's just really nice to see what experiences they bring forward to the class. It's nice to know what background they're coming from, and it really shows how determined they are after going through all the experiences that they want to go into medicine. And they really show us, not only me, but all my other classmates, that medicine's for them, and they know what it takes to be focused, because some of them have families to take care of, babies, children, and all the while they're going through medical school at the same time, so they're pretty focused, and it's really inspiring because it keeps me focused as well.
We want to thank you guys all so much for participating and for giving wonderful answers, and thanks so much.